What's up, everybody, and welcome to the very first true episode of Combo Damage TV. Before today, I was just putting up random videos of fights, but today we're gonna start talking. Because ever since the original Street Fighter II back in the early 90s, the godfather of the genre itself, I've always loved fighting games. And to this day, it's really the only category of online gaming I enjoy. I'm usually playing offline, story-driven, single-player experiences, or fighting games. Yeah, no multiplayer shooters, no battle royale, just a good old one-on-one battle to the death. But if there's one thing that I've always strongly disliked about fighting games, one thing that's always annoyed me, and mind you, it's only gotten worse over the years, is the oversaturation of cheesy, corny, slapstick, low-budget, horny, cringy-ass anime.
How dare you?
Who the hell do you think you are?
Alright. This video is not an attack on anime. While it can oftentimes be an acquired taste, there's plenty of dark, mature, well-written, and yes, even anime with sex appeal, all of which are fine. And a fighting game doesn't need to be super serious or censored to be successful. Nonetheless, this is still a fight, which means it's a perfect opportunity to make a game with martial arts characters or superheroes, cool moves, and tragic backstories. Unfortunately, we get very little of that. What we normally get are the corniest and horniest anime tropes humanly possible. Which brings us to today's topic. Why are so many fighting games destined to follow the same lame-ass formula? A lazy, nonsensical storyline, terrible voice acting,
Lord Bison will be the one to rule the world!
lolis, waifus, weird-ass characters, and mid-budget visuals. And when will the industry finally realize it's all been done to death already? And ultimately, this really prevents fighting games from reaching a broader audience. A lot of people truly believe the reason why fighting games remain niche is due to the difficulty of execution and skill barrier. But that's only partly true. Let's take a look at some stats. In 1988, 70% of the video game market was dominated by Japan. And when we say Japan, it was mostly just Nintendo at the time with the NES. Fast forward to 2002, and Japanese video game market share shrunk to 50%. Only 8 years later, by 2010, it finally bottomed out to about 10%. The reason? Aside from the country's economic recession at the time, the main cause that was attributed to this shrinkage was the difference in tastes between Japanese and Western audiences. Back in 2010, Hirokazu Hamamura, the president of Famitsu magazine's parent company Enterbrain, shared his thoughts on this disparity. It's only my guess, but European and American game designers are probably more inspired by movies. In Japan, many creators are inspired by comics and anime. There's another difference in graphics. Europeans and Americans prefer realistic visuals, whereas Japanese prefer more cartoon-like characters. While there may be some merit to what he's saying, let's play devil's advocate for a sec. We would be painting a pretty broad stroke to assume these games are the way they are, simply because they come from Japan. I mean, think about it. There are tons of examples of well-received, successful, AAA and indie Japanese games with character designs, themes, and art styles that give them a diverse array of appeal. Games like Devil May Cry and Metal Gear both offer fan service and plenty of cheese, but they aren't these over-exaggerated aspects of these games. Clearly, not every game from Japan is flooded with these stereotypical anime tropes, but fighting games, on the other hand, seem to be the one category where it's the majority of what we get. Like I mentioned earlier, video games don't always have to be super serious, and there's nothing wrong with fan service. I get it, simping over cartoon characters is a thing, and there's big money to be made in it. But if sex sells and that's all there is to it, then Dead or Alive would be the most popular fighting game of all time. And clearly it's not. So can we also get something else? I mean literally anything else? There are so many kinds of shooters, so many kinds of racing games, so many kinds of RPGs. Serious, lighthearted, realistic, cartoony, and everything in between. Meanwhile, fighting games continue to get the short end of the stick with the lack of artistic variety. Having a roster is an opportunity to market interesting characters and create world building to widen the appeal. This is something that games like Overwatch, League of Legends, and even Mortal Kombat did successfully with their respective audiences. Yes, gameplay is king, but the look, the feel, the personality of your game is going to have an effect. And not just with generating interest, but the enjoyment of the experience. Video games are just that, a visual medium. I'll even use a fighting game made outside of Japan as an example. When Mortal Kombat 11 was first revealed, it was clear that the female characters weren't going to look like DeviantArt from 2007 this time. Okay, whatever. I mean, we're here to play a fighting game, right? Man, there were stans on the internet who lost their minds as if NetherRealm committed treason, which is crazy because the game still had attractive female characters. But who cares? It's a fighting game. Expectations like this are probably why no other developer sees the point in breaking the mold or trying something different. Lo and behold, Mortal Kombat 11 ended up being their best-selling game in the series. Clearly, this particular change didn't hurt the game's appeal or chance for success. But more importantly, they took the time to make the presentation, characters, and production value more than just a fighting game, all while still keeping things fun and silly. Look, when it comes to anime, I'm never going to deny that there are fighting games where it's clearly a beautiful work of art, but that's almost always when it's based off of a well-known, well-funded IP. An approach that I definitely support, by the way, but nonetheless, we need to do better. If Capcom can put in the effort with games like Devil May Cry or Resident Evil, then they can do the same for Street Fighter and their other fighting games. The fact that Team Ninja can make badass Ninja Gaiden and Neo games, but won't maintain that level of badassery in Dead or Alive is a damn shame. I actually like the most recent Melty Blood. In spite of it looking like the kind of fighting game we've seen a million times already, the gameplay is actually quite excellent. But when your first DLC is a 14-year-old loli of a character that's already in the game, people aren't exactly going to flock to the experience. And after 14 King of Fighters games, SNK still figured it would make more sense to put out a low-budget waifu crossover game rather than put the time and effort into making a true next-gen sequel to the series, which KOF 15 clearly is not. So I conclude with this. Fighting games have so much untapped potential and deserve more than just existing in this one lane. We live in the esports era now, and the appeal of fighting games is still decades behind. Making them easier to play or more accessible, an approach I firmly support, still only fixes half the problem. I've got some ideas, and I look forward to talking about it more on this channel in the future. But what are your thoughts? Do you agree or disagree that this formula is partly why fighting games rarely become mainstream? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Until next time, thanks for stopping by and take care.